take on any sort of marketing. And so we saw a massive gap in the market in the digital space where they weren't utilizing the digital space. And we thought that it might be an opportunity for us to pursue. And yeah, I mean, it's been a phenomenal journey from the beginning. It's been a tough journey, but it's been a phenomenal journey. It's been rewarding. So we've extended our business to right across the country, from East London to Joburg to Cape Town to Bloemfontein, Graaff-Reinet, wherever you think we've got clients. So yeah, basically Digital Sky is a digital offering, from running social media accounts to introducing a Wi-Fi product that harvests customers' information, and we get to send them email blasts and go on an email journey, to developing content management systems and digital boards for retail stores and retail outlets. So very much digital focused. And yeah, we're a relationship before business sort of company. So we focus on building relationships first, and then getting business afterwards. And in a nutshell, that's what we do, and that's who we are. Yeah.
Now, fantastic. I think going on to, we started off in East London. Let's go to Bushbuckridge. Jubilation, do you mind telling us what Torha is all about, and how did you stumble across the idea of building a water company?
Oh, okay, cool. Guys, my name is Jubilation Magagule, all the way from Bushbuckridge, the founder and CEO of Torha. Anyway, first of all, I would like to apologize about the noise on the background. I'm on the road, so I had to park along the road so that I can able to attend the meeting. Okay, guys, I started Torha. Before I started Torha, I've seen the gap in the market of regarding bottled water, and then when I looked at the research, I saw that the market is growing, and for each and every year it's growing with about 27%, and then around 2025 it will be growing about 57%, meaning the market is very big. And then when I look at I started looking at my area, Bushbuckridge, like we have a challenge of water. So I thought like I should come with a solution to this problem. So that's why I introduced Torha, where the funny part is that I started this business with a little amount of 500 Rand, which that was back in 2019. Meaning now we are about 1 year and how many months? About 1 year and 3 months old, if I'm not mistaken. So basically at Torha, we purify water, but we don't just purify water like any other water. So we give our water a unique taste, but it's a still water. So it's a prepared still water. So we purify the water, we remineralize the water, and then after we ozonate it. So what happened is that most of the still waters, they don't have minerals. So it's either you have mineral water or you have still water. So like how about we combine the two in one bottle? So we have a still water with minerals inside it. So we are currently supplying most of the spas around Bushbuckridge and Ruth Butcheries, and also supplying Funeral Palace, restaurant and hotels in our surrounding area. But we are aiming to grow the market, because like the demand now has grown very high, and the response from the public is very positive. Okay, thank you very much.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, Jubilation, in your response or in your introduction of the business, because this forum, this theme, it speaks into the heart of what you're saying, that in Bushbuckridge, there was a water problem and you solved that problem. Was that exactly what you had in mind? Or was it just that, let me start a business to make some profits? Or was it like, okay, let me solve the problem, and if I make some profits, good for me?
One of my mentors once said that to me, Jubilation, before you get into a business, first identify a problem. And then when you found when you got the problem, try to look for a solution. While you're looking for a solution, do much research about the solution that you want to bring. How is it going to sustain you also? How are you going to benefit from it? It should make business to you also. So that's why I had to go into the water business.
No, fantastic. Thank you, Jubilation from Bushbuckridge. We are going to Tiang. Tiang, the founder of Load a Lot. I'm not sure if you're here, Tiang. Are you here? Yes, you are here.
Yes.
Do you mind just like letting us know a little bit more about Load a Lot? How was the idea stumbled upon, and how did you get it going? Basically, how did you give birth to Load a Lot?
Hi everyone. My name is Tiang. Well, Load a Lot was founded in 2016, and it was during university years, and there was a struggle when students were moving between residents. So at that time, we didn't have Uber, so we had to ask, I don't know if you guys remember the old cab companies, one of them was Cabco. So I remember we had to move and we had to call a cab. So I saw that as a niche, right? But ultimately, I've always wanted to end up in the logistics space, long story, but trying not to get into that. So now there I saw a niche and a way to actually start where I was at the time into the logistics space. So what happened was I asked a couple of students at the time if they had a plan regarding moving back home. So a lot of UCT students at the time had to go back to Pretoria, to KZN, to Limpopo. And I ran a survey just trying to find out if there was a market. And I found out that a lot of students didn't have a plan in terms of how they're going to move their accumulated stuff back home. Now that was basically a confirmed thing to say, you know what, there is actually a niche for this. So now what I did was I had to start. So I didn't have a bakkie at that time, anything like that. So I went to the main road. I stopped everyone who was driving a bakkie, and I proposed a 30-70 deal. And I said to them, look, I have student markets, students want to move, and look, we'll give you 30% and we'll do everything else. And that's how we started in 2019. That's when we were fully blown company. And we invented what is an AI model. Basically, it allows people to just capture a space full of furniture items, and it identifies the stuff, and it generates an instant code. So from then, we then grew into creating an ecosystem where we brought in a cleaning company, a storage company, and the main thing here is to try simplify the entire moving experience. And as we all know, they say that moving is top 3 of the hardest things after divorce. And that's if it doesn't cause divorce or you're moving because divorce happened. So it was a huge niche, and we're glad that we penetrated it, and we're growing quite well. And where we are right now, we're there trying to give an entire moving experience, which is seamless. And it allows one to just basically book, and you have your place cleaned, your stuff packaged, and your stuff moved. So yeah, that's where we are currently.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much, Tiang. And lastly, but not least, Xabiso, the founder of Funga Tech. Do you mind just unmuting yourself there? I see that you've you've muted yourself. Can you just briefly just tell us what is Funga Tech and what it's all about? What is it trying to achieve? How did you actually start Funga Tech?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me on this platform. My apologies if you see me looking towards the side of the screen. I'm joined with 2 devices, right? So I am Xabiso Lombo, the founder of Funga Tech, which essentially I had a problem when I was at the University of Cape Town, and the biggest problem at that was that of student safety. There were stories where you'd hear students were held at gunpoint, knife point, and sometimes you'd hear that students were kidnapped. So I myself had a general fear over my own life, and I wanted ways in which I could keep myself safe. I began a journey of researching how I could keep myself safe. Things that I found in the market were apps on your cell phone, or devices connecting via Bluetooth to your cell phone. But in the context of South Africa, the cell phone is the first thing that they take away from you. So what happens in the event that my cell phone battery dies, or I don't have my cell phone. So essentially, I want to tell someone that I'm in danger and I am at this location. And lo and behold, because there wasn't anything in the market at the time, I decided, okay, well then let's create something. And that is how Funga came about, which is a panic button that requires no connectivity to your cell phone to send a location link to armed response services.
Nah, fantastic. I think now we have a good general idea of what we're actually dealing with as far as the companies and the entrepreneurs that are with us here today. What are they all about? I would like the discussion to take this route now. By the way, the people that are joining us on Facebook Live, feel free to ask questions to any entrepreneur, also to chip in as far as the discussion is concerned. I would like to get into something which Tiang kind of hinted a little bit, and that's fundraising, because he said that he didn't have a bucky. I'd like everyone to actually chip in, Alexi, Xabiso, and Jubilation. The fundraising issue of that you have an idea here, but you don't have the initial capital to make the idea work or to make the idea grow. How do you possibly work your way around that? I think we can start off with Tiang, because he kind of mentioned a little bit of what he did, and then guys, just feel free to chip in wherever you want to.
Yeah. So for me, particularly in my space, what we needed the most at the time was a bucky, and so what happened is we got someone to help us. We of course established that agreement, the 3071. At some point, he ditched us, and now we were in a predicament where we had to now come up with a way that we will be able to, sustain the business with an asset that we couldn't afford at that time. And that touches a bit on what you say in terms of fundraising. And what we did is we went. At the time, I had a partner, so what we did was we did growth crowdfunding. So we did the crowdfunding process. We sent an SMSs to friends, to family, to other networks we met at that time. So sent out through, and what happened was we only had 3 people contribute. We were trying to raise 100K at that time, and I think we got about 1.2. And we now were in a position to come up with a strategy. But luckily, we were able to rent buckies, right? And that helped us a lot, because we were able to at least generate income, and as well, run the business and establish it quite well, and be able to, identify it and build it in a way that we can, in the later stage, present it to investors. So we kind of bootstrapped for a while, and eventually when we started and were able to identify it, that's when we brought in angel investors. So it didn't start well, as we imagined it, but what the strategy we used at the time was literally just to bootstrap, to try and make enough money to keep renting, to have agreements with a couple of companies to say, look, we don't have enough resources or enough money or enough documents to create an account, because at that time we didn't subscribe to any other thing, we didn't have creditors and all that, so we just had to negotiate, and it worked out quite well. So renting and buckies helped us to a point where we were able to come up with a proper business plan and present it to potential angel investors. So yeah, that's how we went about it.
Yeah, Alexi, I saw that you're keen to actually comment on that.
Oh yeah, so I love that story. I think that's just the crux of entrepreneurship, is that there's barriers to entry in everything that you do in life, and that's what makes this journey so difficult. That's why it's only a few people get get to do it. Only a few people make it work because there are so many barriers, and obviously funding is one of those. But I found that if you let funding and the lack of, say, money stop you from doing it, there's going to be so many more things along the way that's going to crop up. If that's what's going to stop you, you're going to hit your head. So throughout my sort of stint with entrepreneurship from a student, I mean, I put myself through university. I used to have to make money from absolutely nothing, and if you've got a goal in mind, and it's the same thing with us as a business, Digital Sky, we know where we're going, we know where we want to be, but we know that we need X amount to get there. We're going to find solutions and ways to make money and turn a profit so that we can start building up some capital until that day that we go, okay, cool, we've got enough equity, we've got enough this, we've got enough that, so that we can go ahead with it. I think money is a big problem, but it should be not the least, but it should be a worry, but not the entire worry. So there's always a way around it. There's always a way around it or a way through it. You just got to scratch a little bit.
I would also like to chip in there in terms of funding. I want to be, I don't like advising people to read all of these books at nauseum, because they tell you, it's your family, friends, or founders are the first people that are going to invest in you, and then you're going to find a VC. And a lot of these books are European based or the American Silicon Valley type based, right? But in Africa, we have a very different problem, is that the lack of funding is a big issue in Africa. So there are various ways in which one needs to go about of finding funding before they even get to a stage of approaching angel investors or venture capitalists. So I was, all I had was an idea. I was an accounting student, and so I had no technical expertise whatsoever, but I knew I wanted to create this product. So I'm in hardware, arguably one of the most difficult things to do. But at the time, I didn't know that, of course. So what I did essentially was to enter a lot of competitions, which would enable me to get to the next step. So I was fortunate enough to win a competition in Cape Town, which was Africa Arena at the time. And that gave me 150,000 Rand worth of software development. So my software development was covered on that side. And then I think it was bootstrapping most of sort of the development of the company as you go. But again, hardware is the most expensive and most difficult thing that you can do. And then that's when I went on to go into research of what types of funding is out there. And then I got to know about this term of grant funding, where the funding is given to you at no cost and no liability that you have to pay back. So who are these people that give you grant funding? So I was fortunate enough to learn of the Technology Innovation Agency in South Africa, which funds a lot of technological innovations through the initial phases. Sometimes they even fund your R&D. So I think that it also takes a lot of researching to understand what type of funding is out there. Because I remember even before I got to the competition in Africa Arena, I just sat down one Saturday and I researched incubators in Cape Town. Yeah. And the one that I actually applied to had already closed applications, but I applied anyway. And long behold, they responded to my email saying, you know what, we like your idea. How about you join us tomorrow at this competition? Let's see if we can take it further. And mind you, I had never pitched a day in my life, but I decided, you know what, let me be there, let me be present, and let's see where this will take me. And that's how my long journey began.
Jubilation.
Okay. This whole idea started back in 2018. So actually, after I've done my research about the water businesses, so I took my water to the lab back and forth. They rejected, and then up to where they approved it back in 2019 in November. I remember when I received the email saying that the water results are back and everything is it's perfect. The water, it's healthy. I can go to the market and sell it. I had about 500 Rand in my bank account. So I was like, where do I start from here? So that's all like, okay, cool. You know what? because I've got this principle that I'm using, which is like use what you have to get what you don't have. So I'm like, okay, let me just use this 500 so that I can get what I don't have. I went around and looked for companies that have them machines that qualifies to purify the type of water that I'm looking for. That can also do the setting that I want for my water. And then I got one in Soweto. And that by that time, I gave them 500 rand, and then they produced about 5Ks, 524s, 500 mils. So on that one, I took those 500 mils. That water got transported by a taxi from Joburg to Bushbuck Ridge. I remember very well. One of my old friend, Vicente Chawane, and Hebron Kosa, they helped me a lot to get the water from Bush, to collect it from the taxi rank at Bush, and then took it to my place. That moment, it was like I've won a lotto. Now I've got my product on my hands. I was like, what's next? I went to the streets. I knew my target market by then, so I visited Mr. Prince Gamlela. Sbui. So like Mr. Sbui, I've started a water business, can taste my water. And then he tasted, it was like Jubilation, how do I place an order? I was like, I've got limited stock. So I deal with special orders. So, and the minimum order is 5 cases. So you pay upfront before I deliver. It takes and then I got about 5 clients. All of them, I told them the very same story. Along the way, while I was collecting the money from the 5 clients, they gave me the money. At the end of the day, I had about 30 packs to deliver to clients. Those were my actual sales. So I went around, I got one company in White River, which has the machine that fits to do my water. Then I went there, I purified, I got the water packed for me. I took it and delivered it to all the clients. And then from there, that's how I started. I continued fundraising for the business. So like I used that 500 as the samples. The 500 was a loss, but a good investment for marketing. But I used their profit, the profit that I was getting from all the sales. And mind you, by then I didn't have any baki. I had nothing. So I was like, I don't need to own a baki to run this business. I don't need to own a plant to own this business. So from there, we kept on growing. We got bigger clients. We started to sign with spas and routes. And I saw like now the business is coming all right. And then up to where one of my mentors said like, Jubilation, now your business is coming all right. Let me just invest something. Just run your business. I don't want any interest on the money. And then when your business is okay, we're gonna bring back the money. Like now we are able to sell about 15 pallets per month, which is like still a good start. And even now we don't own any car and we don't own any plant. So it's just me and my ambassadors and the sales and the marketing guy. So it's like we just using what we get, what we don't have. That's how I fundraise for my. So
yeah, like what I'm getting from this group of entrepreneurs is that you have to have a lot of resilience in the beginning to have a go at an idea of which you're not quite sure where you're going to get the money from. I know with, for example, with Jubilation's story here, very dramatic. You had to have taxis here. I'm sure like the stories go on and on, but I think I get the message in that like, if you have the idea, then you're going to have to be resilient and you're going to have to believe in the idea. And there's always ways of making or maneuvering around the challenge of funding. Is that what I'm getting from this group?
I'd like to chip in there, Nico.
Sure.
So you said you need to have resilience in the beginning. You need to have resilience every day, all day, 24/7, 365. Because once you overcome the first challenge, there's another one coming and there's another one coming. And I think it goes beyond just believing in your idea. You need to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Because there are times when, I mean, you yourself don't believe in yourself. You have self-doubt starts to creep in because things aren't just coming together. And I think And at those times, it's also quite important to lean into your support structures and also lean into the reason why you started what you started and where you want to be. And I think besides resilience, I think that is also a key thing to remember in this journey of entrepreneurship.
I'd like to switch gears in this conversation because I think now we've dealt with fundraising. And by the way, guys, the people that are tuning into this conversation, please, you can type out your questions, use the chat function. The question can be directed to an individual entrepreneur, or they can just be directed to the whole group. It's totally fine. So questions we'll deal with in the last 10 minutes. I'd like us just to switch gears a little bit. And that is, okay, now you have the idea and you sort of have a direction about how you're going to go about working on the idea. Attracting clients now. You have to look for clients because they are the ones that are going to buy into whatever you're selling. I would like us just to speak about that. What are the challenges? Let's go with Alexi. Alexi, when you started, what was the big challenge in looking for clients? Did you actually go from door to door saying that, hey, I'm representing Digitl Sky, I can help you? How did you go about it?
So I believe in the power of association, and I think that if you make the right associations, you don't need to have a massive network of people. You need to have one or two really good relationships that you could hinge off eventually. And so I started investing in one or two people from early on while I was employed, and I started investing in them, knowing that one day there might be a time where I'm going to come up with an idea, and I might need to call on them for something. And so that did happen. We obviously saw a gap in the market. We saw that there was a need, and I had a coffee with one associate, and he got me to sit down with quite a big client. And again, my principle in business so far has been relationship before business. And so what we did was we got one client on, and we had to do it. It was quite stressful. You don't get second chances in business, unfortunately. So you get one client on, and you need to make sure, especially in our industry, that you look after them and that you produce results. And if you don't produce results and you don't look after them, there's no point in going to go sell door to door. But one reputation, one sort of it's glass basically. So our approach to finding clients initially was. We started in a small town, so word of mouth was massive for us, and word of mouth was massive for us because we looked after our clients that we had, and every client that we had referred us onto another client, and they referred us on, and they referred us on, and they referred us on, and that's simply because we gave our all to the clients that gave us a shot. And once they saw that we had their best interest at heart and that our success was based off their success, they then referred us on. So initially, we didn't want to grow faster than what we could handle. Again, if you grow too fast, there's tons of headaches that come with that. So we wanted to be able to be faithful with what we had and work with that. And then as our team grew and as we knew that we could take on, we then used the associations that we had and had meetings with people that we believed were going to be the right fit for our business as well. And then once you've got those relationships, once you've got those associations, in our industry, being able to name drop is probably one of the best things that you can do. So very much initially was very organic. And as we've gone along, we've started approaching clients that we believe are going to be a good fit. We never force business. And then obviously using our associations correctly. So that's been our approach. It's just looking after what you've got and then growing from there.
Before I take it to Tiang, you mentioned something about not forcing business. What does that mean? Not forcing business.
So again, I'm not a hard salesman, and I never will sit down and hard sell anyone. I think if you hard sell someone and you try and muscle grind them, you end up losing them. You put them in a corner to make a decision that they might not be ready to make. And sometimes in business that's good. Sometimes you force someone into a decision and it's the best decision they could have made. But because of my principle of being relationship before business, I decided that I would lay the facts down, this is what I can do for you. This is what we can do. This is how we can help you. This is our promise to you. And if you like what you hear, and if you like the results that you've seen with our other clients, then great. But if you're not sure, take your time. Take your time. Here's some links. Here's contact information for people that you want to get a hold of. When you're ready, let us know. And that for me has probably been one of the things that has set us apart from our competitors, where our competitors are knocking door to door. We've had lots of clients say to us that our competitors have phoned them already, and they've tried to get them to sign, but they liked our approach. It was authentic, it was real, and so yeah, I just don't believe in putting people in a position to make a decision for the sake of an invoice at the end of the month. I want to build long-term relationships with clients, and the only way to do that is to start in a respectful sort of relationship first manner. That's my approach. Might not be the best approach for everyone, but certainly with me, yeah.
No, I like that approach. Tiang?
Yeah. So, of course, in terms of the market and customers, you have your B2B and your B2C. So I'm just going to dwell more on B2C. What I've realized in while building and trying to, of course, target the right market, the most important thing is to define it quite well, right? When we started, I remember my mentor asked me a simple question: who are your competitors? Now, remember, moving in your head, it's quite a simple process. You just load into a truck and that's it, right? But you know, I was trying to teach and say all these things, trying to convince him, and he said to me, "Listen, Tiang, you came to me and you basically are saying you want to build a car or a vehicle, but you're not saying anything. Are you trying to build a taxi? Are you trying to build a station wagon? Are you trying? Is it a bus? Is it a truck? What is it exactly?" And that actually made me realize that it's quite imperative to define exactly the type of people who are your target market. Because now what that does is then makes you become narrow and sharp. And one of the most important things that I realized is that you need to know what you can't do. Everyone knows what they can do, but the most important thing as well in business is to know exactly what you can't do. And having said that, that adds quite well to the importance of defining the market quite well. So when we entered the market initially, it was students. And I think 6 months after that, we started getting traction from the outside market. So we had people who owned offices, people who owned 3 to 5 bedroom houses who called us. But you know, we tried to of course take those jobs, but we realized we were not ready for that. Right? We tried to be all over the place because we assumed that, you know, it's just moving, until we sat down and we defined our client segment at that time. Another time was to firstly deal with students and young professionals. And it helped us so much because we were able to understand the psychology, we were able to understand the tradition, we were able to understand how they want things done, right? And that helped us so much, because even when we then evolved into using other platforms which we had to pay for, we were able to define quite well the clients that we wanted to target, right? So I think firstly, it's important to define it. The second thing is that in the beginning, the most powerful weapon is word of mouth, right? And you don't buy word of mouth, but if you offer quality service, that's when you then have, you know, word of mouth working out for you. So after we've defined the market quite well, and we've decided that we will stick to students and senior students into young professionals, we were able then to say, you know what, we're not going to at the moment take big jobs like big offices. We're not going to now take 5 to 6 bedroom houses. We're just going to allow ourselves to grow, to be sharp, to be narrow, until we evolve, and we are now at a point where we have enough capacity to take on those. So if I were to summarize it, it's important, one, to define it, to be narrow and sharp. Two, it is important to offer quality in whatever you do, particularly in the beginning, because word of mouth works. And from that, I think it then becomes quite easy to then go into other platforms like Google Ads, like social media, because if you don't know exactly who you're trying to target, then you don't know how they live, you don't know where they at, you won't be able to capture the market. So that's of course my observation and what I've got to realize, to learn as we were growing the business.
Yeah. I'm going to take it to Jubilation before we open up to Q&A from the virtual floor. It was quite interesting that Alexi and Tiang mentioned word of mouth and how it can work for you. But there is an instance where word of mouth can actually work against you. So that the reputation that, okay, this is the service that I received from Torha, this is the product that I received from Torha, and it was not good. And then that is passed on to another person. Jubilation, can you speak about the importance of offering a great service and a product in the context of word of mouth? Because that's what we're speaking about here.
Okay, thank you, Branyiko.
Sure.
I think before I get to that, I think I would like to highlight this one. Sometimes it's good to, when you have a good product to sell to people, so like you need to make sure that your product is representable. I'm just gonna give you an example to those people who doesn't know Torha. You see how Torha looks like. Oh, the light is too much. Like, sorry guys, I'm not doing marketing. I'm just passing by. So you need to make sure that whatever you're selling, it's unique. So for me, I had to find ways on how I can stand out on the market, because like there's a lot of people selling water. How do I get people to talk about it? So I also had an advantage that I'm a digital market specialist. So on that, I managed to, because I don't usually use word of mouth on my site, to be honest. I use digital marketing. So it was easy for me to install this to the mind of the people of Bushbuckridge. So at the beginning, I made this product to be exclusive. So in a way that they see people talking about it, but it was not accessible. So when you see someone talking about something, but it's not accessible, the day you get it, you're going to talk about it. So meaning now it's like a trend. When you're drinking Torha, it's like you're on the fashion. Even now, even today. So it's like when I got Torha, it's like, hey guys, I've made it. It's like I've bought my G63. It's like I've bought a new car. Like that's how I've programmed everything into the mind of the people. But not to forget that, yes, people from Bushbuckridge are very supportive, and I really appreciate their support. So what I can say with the issue of word of mouth, we just need to be careful on how do you position your brand to the people in terms of the word of mouth, because it can be bad, as like Nico said, it can be either good or bad, but you need to make sure that you maintain. You see, if you give them a good service delivery, you're gonna get a good word of mouth. I'm gonna give an example. My first spa, it was Chimungo Spa, but the manager from Spa, it was easy for him to recommend me to the other two spas. He called him like, no, you know what? There's this new boy. He's trying to make a living. This product is moving very well on the shelves. Please give him a try. And I went there. I delivered on time. What I do, I don't usually go after invoices on my clients. I know invoicing is very important. I deliver. I drop an invoice. I don't follow up payment. Sometimes I even take time to go and collect payment. But I focus most on, do you still have the stock? Do you still have more water? Going back to Funeral Palace, there are those Funeral Palace, like, okay, on the market, they were working with other different companies. I was like, okay, these guys, they every day they're spending money to go and buy water at this other shop. I was like, okay, you know what? What I can do for you, let me just open an account with me. You can take unlimited stock the whole month, but you have to make sure that on the 30th you pay your invoice. So, because everyone they want convenience, so you need to give convenience to the people. So by then I've managed. I was able to produce more stock for them. I give them more stock. They are happy. I call. Do you think you have enough water for this weekend? They be like, no, actually we've got about 5 cases. Okay, I'm gonna come and deliver you maybe 50 cases.
Yeah.
I know when I invoice the month end, I'm gonna have good money. So, cause like on our business, it's not a business of selling one bottle. It's all about volume. We sell more volume, we are in business. So I don't know if I've answered your question. Like I think I went too deep.
No. It's okay. It's okay. I'm quickly wanting to go to the Q&A. We've got some questions from the floor. The first one comes from Fulu Felani. She's asking about recruiting business partners. So onboarding business partners into your current business. I'm not sure out of the panel, it's for the whole panel at large. So I'm not sure who will be willing to take that one on. And then the second question is from Diana. She said, how has your experience been running a business in the COVID-19 pandemic? So the first question, just to summarize, is basically getting business partners involved. How do you go about it? And the second question is running a business in the global pandemic. It's open to the floor. I'm not sure who will be keen to take it.
Nico, I can maybe chat about the second one. In terms of the first one, finding business partners and recruiting them. I don't have a business partner, and I just think if I had to, in my current experience, if I had to find someone that I would consider going into business with, it would need to be a win-win. What are they going to bring to the table? What am I going to bring to the table? And how do we both win from it? But I have very little experience in terms of having business partners where it's actually worked. So I think that's a whole different ballgame. So maybe one of the other panelists can chat with that. But in terms of advice for running a business during the pandemic, our business skyrocketed during the pandemic because our offering was digital. Our offering was relevant, and it was keeping up with the trends and ahead with the trends. And so our business skyrocketed. So I think, I mean, obviously, depending on what industry, if you were in entertainment, very difficult to find a way to produce results in this pandemic. This has been probably one of the most difficult time, well, it's definitely the most difficult time in our generation to run a business. But I think that within any business, within any sphere that you're in, there is, again, you need to we spoke about resilience, we spoke about being able to go through things and over things like funding, but you need to be resourceful, and you are the driver of your business at the end of the day. So if something like this happens, you're the one that needs to innovate. Innovation is a massive part of business. So you might be running a print media company. In the pandemic, you weren't able to do any print. Well, what sort of offering can I offer my clients currently that I would be able to still generate an income from? Okay, well, let's move over to a digital platform. So I think just being resourceful in these times, and then also making sure that you're looking after your clients as well as your staff, that you're looking after the people around you even more than what you were before the pandemic. Because it's very easy to kind of fall through the cracks and forget about someone during the pandemic. But if you're there and you're showing up and you're offering your services and you're there for their benefit, very difficult for them to say, well, no, I'm not going to continue doing business with you. So I just think depending on what your offering is and depending on how resourceful you can be, you can still make. There's been people that have made tons of money during the pandemic, but then there's been people that's made a lot less or nothing. So it's your offering and how you're going to bring that to the table. And I think that's it from my side.
Yeah, I want Xabiso to actually take this one on because one of his skill sets is consulting. How would you advise a small business or an emerging business to actually go about recruiting business partners?
Right. So I had 3 business partners prior to, let's say, the pandemic. And initially I was at university and I thought I was going to need a specific skill set. and it was literally a word of mouth type of decision. But everyone graduated and they decided that they were going to go their own ways. So I'm now currently pursuing my business alone. But what I would advise people when they're seeking out a business partner, and I think it's very important that you need to treat your business partner as someone you would get married to, as though it were a marriage. Because in business, when you get into a business partner, you're going to be making very difficult decisions with this person. You need to know this person's ethics, these person's values, because they also have an impact of your business. So before you onboarding your business partner, date them, give them a few tasks, engage on how they go about and conducting business. How do they conduct themselves? And then once you've seen the effort, once you've seen this person's ethics, once you've seen their work ethic, then you go about on onboarding them as a business partner. And even so, in what capacity are you going to offer them equity? And how much equity are you going to offer them into the business? And what are they bringing? And are these shares going to be vesting, or are they going to be given immediately? So it's a very complicated task. And I would say, or advise anyone to hire slow and fire fast, because the crux of the matter is, if you have an employee or a business partner that is really giving your business a bad reputation, it's going to come back and it's going to hurt your business very profusely. And I would say, it does sound like a harsh thing to say, and that's why I say really do go on the journey of dating your business partner first. I don't know what advice other people would give on that, but that's just my take on it.
I think you covered it nicely. Jubilation, we're going to come to you because I want you and Tiang to deal with the last question that we have, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. And that question is clients and late payments or non-payments after delivery of service. How do you deal with that? I know from my past experiences, in fact, many businesses, I've seen many businesses close down because of that 30-day payment dealing with the state. It actually crippled them. So Jubilation, and then we're going to end off with Tiang, dealing with clients, late payments, and sometimes non-payments. How do you go about that? Because that is a challenge which I think emerging businesses really, really struggle with.
To be quite honest, sometimes it's very difficult for a business to run if clients don't keep on the agreed arrangement. But like I said earlier, that the way I operate, I just operate different from other people. So because I give my clients that flexibility. It's more like we're exchanging services. So what the most challenging part about when someone doesn't pay is because tomorrow for example, they were supposed to pay on the 31st, and then it happens that they don't pay, and then now on the 5th they're looking for that service, and now I don't have enough money to produce for them, and now I have to take from the other pocket to feed the other business. So it becomes so difficult. It means you need to be very selective. Like what Alexi said, you need to check you need to build a relationship, and then you need to choose, you need to be very wise on the type of clients that you are working with. So on my side, because I'm working with businesses that are, they've got a good reputation. Like I haven't experienced the issue of late payments and whatsoever. Unless if I delayed, I didn't send the invoice, or I sent the statement later, maybe five days later or a week later. But on that case, it's not really. I haven't had that kind of a challenge. But I wanted to quickly touch back that issue of selecting partners just for a minute. Okay. I had a very bad experience when it comes to working with partners. I wouldn't advise someone to, if you are just starting a business. It's your first time to be in a business. I wouldn't advise you to go and work with someone who also has the same experience with you. You guys are just doing finder, because at the end of the day, you're going to fight. And it's difficult when you are the one with the vision, the one The other one, you sold the idea to the person because you sold to them, and then they saw the money in it. And you are driving with the passion. You're being driven by the passion, and the other person will be driven by the money. So you need to be very skeptical and you need to be very careful. I will advise that when you are starting, start alone. But if you've got other businesses, just go and venture with someone that you can trust, like someone that you can get married to, like I've said earlier.
Tiang, do you mind wrapping up with the question of, you can comment on the business partners briefly if you feel like you need to, but I would actually like you to actually deal with the non-payments and late payments from clients.
Yeah. Quickly with partners, I think it depends. It's like funding, right? You do projections, you have goals, and you set up goals, and you know where you want to be in the next 18 months, in the next 2 quarters, and so. When you bring in a business partner, firstly, it should depend on what you need at that time, right? If you've been pushing alone and you realize that now you want to, let's say, for example, want to now become a tech-enabled company, of course, you will need a more tech-inclined person. And Xabiso said something very important, which is vesting, right? When you recruit these people, you don't just give them shares right away, right? You have to rather go the vesting process where it is based on goals, right? If they're able to achieve and to fulfill a certain goal at a certain point, then we give them 2%. If not, it's based on that. So I think there is a way to go around partners, because to be honest, if you really want to grow and grow fast, sometimes you need people who have those skills and are inclined in those certain areas that you believe will help your business to grow exponentially. Then in terms of late invoices, and I think that's when you start to realize the importance of owning a gun. I mean, for me personally, I had to, I mean, initially we were fine. We would deliver stuff and we would wait for you to pay. Recurring clients, that's fine. Retaining clients, that's fine. The issue is the one-off ones. So what we eventually did, we drafted terms and conditions, right, to say, look, before we drop off all your items at your place, you have to send us a POP. Because, clients sometimes don't understand. As much as we as entrepreneurs try to understand customer perspective, they tend to not want to, get our perspective as well, particularly as growing entrepreneurs, because you need to pay as well, right? You do have people that you owe, you do have subscriptions, you do have platforms like Google Ads. If you're in digital, you do have employees to pay. So when you are delayed, you then get to lose even good talents in your company because of that. So I think it's very important, based on the company as well and your model, to try to figure out ways that you can now get that amount of money within a stipulated time. But 2 things which helped us: one, terms and conditions, and we were quite strict. Initially, we were a bit reluctant because we didn't want to offend clients. The conversation of money was very sensitive. But as you grow, you realize that, you have to be firm when you want your money. It's your money, especially when you've offered a good service, right? You need that, not because you want to be harsh to your clients, but you really need that to have the company to continue to grow, to continue to pay its its clients, its creditors, and all that. 2, of course, we differ in our businesses and our models, but one other important thing was to have a relationship with the debt collector. They exist for a reason, trust me, because we do have people who just don't want to pay. And we realized that, it is, where we were at that time before we brought in one, we were at a point where we really needed that money. And we tried to use all threatening lines and it didn't work, right? So we decided, we will bring in a debt collector. And that worked out quite well for us. So, understanding a client is very important, especially if it's a returning client. But in terms of once-off, I think we need to put in systems in place which will protect us from delayed payments, and which will also make it clear to our customers that they have to pay, or otherwise they'll be penalized for that. So that's one strategy and approach that seemed to work for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Tiang. Thank you so much to the panel. I know there's plenty more to say about many other issues that are affecting businesses, but fortunately we have to end it here. So once again, I just want to say thank you to you, Tiang. Thank you, Alexi. Thank you to Jubilation. Thank you, Xabiso. We really appreciate you guys making the time out. And how do people reach you guys? How do people reach you? Can you just go down the line? Can you start off with Tiang, and then have Alexi, then Xabiso, and then Jubilation? How do people reach you?
Tiang Moabelo on LinkedIn, Tiang Moabelo on Instagram as well. I think those are the simplest platforms. Okay,
fantastic. Alexi? Can you just unmute yourself there?
Sorry. Yeah, you can Alexi Carreira on LinkedIn. I'm not super active, but yeah, that, or you can go onto my website and you'll see my contact details there, digitalsky.com. Yeah.
So I unfortunately am not on Twitter, but I am on Instagram, Xabiso_Lombo, LinkedIn, Xabiso Lombo, Facebook, Xabiso Lombo. Those are the social media platforms that I use.
Okay. On Twitter, I'm at Magagule GB. Facebook, I'm Jubilation Magagule. Instagram, Jubilation Magagule, and LinkedIn is Jubilation Magagule.
Okay, now thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. This has been the first edition of the Table of Ideas. We're gonna have another one. In fact, we're gonna have 2 every month. This one dealt with emerging businesses, and in the next one, we're gonna have different themes such as financial services, insurance, banking, mining, construction, so on and so forth. So be on the lookout. Follow the Economites. We are on the different social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. Just search the Economites, you will find us there. And with that, I would like to leave you with a quote by Rudyard Kipling in a poem he wrote called If. He said that if you meet with triumph and disaster and treat those 2 imposters just the same. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and I will hope that you have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.